The ego is the system that runs your sense of self. It is made out of thought patterns, emotions, and behavioral loops, and the stories that try to hold it all together. Left unchecked, it creates endless existential searching, chronic disconnection, and the persistent sense that something is wrong. The goal of my videos is clarity, to see your identity and its contradictions for what they are, named precisely, to finally understand what it is that we're all running away from. Within you, there are a ton of neural networks connecting different life experiences in your own head. And they are all stored in your own brain. Even if you don't think about them actively, they are not forgotten. These past events are kernels of fear, and you can liberate them by putting your attention directly on these kernels of fear. It might feel like that doing so will not result to anything, that it will only give you maybe a panic attack, or that it's kind of a waste of time because you should not be occupied with the past. But it is completely the opposite. It is the kernels of fear that are like little doors that must be opened and looked at and then walked through. And only through this process you can awaken to your true self. Fear is limitation. It tells you something that you do not want to accept. And it tells you that there's something you are refusing to love. You're refusing to let it in and be a part of you. So now you have these core centers within your mind that are locked off the rest of your entire being. And this causes a certain drag in your own mind that you might think doesn't really affect you, but it is the consequence, or like the symptom of anxiety and depression and frustration and feeling that life is a drag and just existential fears and rumination and overthinking. They all can find their path towards some clusters of neurons in your own brain that are constantly trying to fight to not be liberated into your entire awareness. If you liberate them to your entire awareness, what will this be like for you? Well, you're going to be very scared. Doing this process of moving towards this fear is the best thing you can do for yourself, if you can do so willingly. If you have anxiety and notice that there are things about you that you find scary, if you find the time of the day to sit down, and it doesn't need to be formal meditation sitting, it could literally just be a chair or looking at nature or whatever, and then close your eyes and put your attention to where it is scary within your own body and try to focus on this for as long as you can, then you will liberate that energy. And this might take more than one day to fully be liberated. It depends really on how often do you meditate, what is your experience like. But the goal is literally to focus on feelings of fear. Not to feel more fear, but to just look what happens. And I'm going to tell you what happens. What happens is if you do this for long enough, this fear is going to be like a ball that keeps expanding. And if you liberate it further by looking, then you're going to expand into this. It is very important here to keep being anchored into your own breath, or something that anchors you. Like breath is just the easiest, I find. Although through the fear it can sometimes feel like you're going to hyperventilate. But if you then still can maintain somewhat of a good rhythm, I find it the best. But you could also just have any other object that gives you a sense of comfort, and then focus on that object as a sort of anchor even within the fear. And I can tell you from my personal experience that these clusters of fear within your own nervous system and your own brain are way more influential of how you feel like every day than you could possibly fathom. Something that I can tell, for example, is that for around 2 years, I stopped meditating, focusing on my breath. I just switched the meditation. And I did so because whenever I started to focus on my breath and became conscious of how odd it is to switch from unconscious breathing to conscious breathing, it kind of freaked me out. And I couldn't really pinpoint why it freaked me out, but it's just like, why do I breathe normally, if I don't think about it, but now it feels like difficult. And then it always felt like I wouldn't get enough air. And then I stopped for I think 1 or 2 years to meditate in this way. And then one day I thought, okay, I need to like actually move through it, like just focus on the breath and see what happens. And then I think it took probably 40 minutes or 45 minutes. And I told myself it cannot be the case that I don't get enough air. Like it has to be an illusion of the mind because it's only happening when I meditate. So if I'm focusing on the breath and now I feel like I can't breathe, something is going on here. So I kept pushing, and then exactly what I said happened. The ball of fear became bigger. The feeling that I couldn't breathe became stronger. And then the mind wants to stop because it says, no, this is dangerous. This cannot be good. You must break this. And I knew intuitively that if I were to break it at this point when it's already increasing, it's going to get worse. And I'm going to, tell this to you. The worst moment to stop is when the fear increases. When the fear increases at a certain like point, you're kind of at a point of no return and you want to see it through. If you then chicken out, you might actually cause damage to your mind, at least short term. But then the energy is just dissipated in your own body and it becomes kind of stark. And I'm promising you that if you get through this like fear ball and you keep focusing on it, it will subside. And when it subsides, you're going to feel way, way, way better. I suddenly could breathe deeper than I've ever breathed before in my entire life. I felt so relieved. And even through like this like panic attack that I basically induced myself in, I started to laugh. Like at the end tail of the panic attack, I started manic laughing because I could not believe how intense this was just by focusing on my own anxiety basically. And then since then, this like breathing anxiety that I had during meditation completely stopped. And since then, it's gone. And this is one example of how meditation truly liberates energy. And it can also do so with joy and positive emotions. And it doesn't, again, need to be this formal meditation. It's about you consciously deciding that you want to experience your own fear, which is something very counterintuitive to do, but necessary for awakening. Because it is on the other side of that fear where you find the love and acceptance that you're actually looking for and the true contact within yourself that is untouched by fear. There's so many things that people want to do that they don't do because of that fear. And I went deeper into this in this video where I talk about the potential hidden in your own shadow. And it always is something that you're not admitting to yourself that you believe about yourself or reality that is causing you to be fearful in inaction. And it also relates to the definitions you use for a thing. And I don't mean like cold definitions, but something that you want to do, somehow in the thing that you want to do, there's a sort of definition hiding that if you understand how you're defining it in a way that causes you fear. And this means that you're limiting yourself from actually wanting the thing because the way you define your own wanting has something bad about it. Some sort of should, some sort of rejection, some sort of misalignment, some sort of lack of belief or lack of excitement. And oftentimes underneath fear is excitement, is aliveness, is the desire to want to be a fuller human being. And when people ask, okay, so what can I do about this fear? Is there like something that I can do to make it easier or like lighten it or whatever? And to this I say no, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. You must go through the fear. That's its design, and it can be absolutely brutal. It can be so much worse than what people say. But oftentimes, what makes it so bad is this desire to want to, make it weaker or being scared of how high it can go, and then this rumination of okay. How more intense this is going to be? How more intense this is going to be? Can I handle this? Will I? And then this is where like the fear kind of increases until you say, I can handle this. It's okay. And then you just ride the wave as high as the wave wants to go. And this is how it is like by design. Like the negative qualities of experience, like terrifying experiences, horrible experiences, traumatic experiences, they are designed to be this way. Like negative experiences within their name are negative. That's how they're like. That's how they're supposed to be experienced. And any sort of rejection of that fact is egoic fantasy. It's the delusion that the mechanism could be something else. But if there's a mechanism within you trying to protect you, and then it uses fear to protect you, then the only way to change your own relationship to that thing is to move through that fear. And then, you'll find that it actually solves the thing. And of course, there's a matter here of moving through the stuff on your own pace. If you move too quickly, too fast, then of course, for a short amount of time, you might break things, meaning that you might get quite destabilized, quite ungrounded, even more anxious at some times. Especially, I know, the, let's say, worst cases that I know are people that I've talked to that, had psychedelic experiences where you experience some sort of ego death dissolution, and this can also happen to me, by the way. And then you resist this dissolution. In my perspective, and this is kind of limited, I'm at the edge of my knowledge here, but from my experience, there are two ways that this can happen. You either reject your ego death so hard that the ego death doesn't happen, and in my experience, these are usually people who then get very anxious for long periods of time, and then, the only way to solve this is to meditate through that fear and purposefully bring you into this fear again through cognitive meditation, or taking psychedelics again, which for oftentimes this is just absolutely a traumatic idea. You just don't want to deal with it at all, and it's oftentimes not good advice if you're just recently traumatized. You should probably wait. But it is only by resisting the fear that your mind gets stuck in a funk. And then there's this other version which happened to me, and I call myself somewhat lucky in that sense, is that I resisted the ego death as hard as I could. But I did actually fall into it at the end of the day. I could not resist hard enough. And this kind of also relates a bit to when you take it, how is your certain state of mind and how much do you take. This is also true for meditation, right? The thing about meditation is that you're way more controlled. You need skill in order to bring you in these states of dissolution. Psychedelics doesn't require skill. It just completely overrides all skill and just says, default mode network off, and then the process of turning it off is kind of where the resistance happens. But with meditation, you do it more actively, and therefore it's much easier to know where your own limits are and gradually build up this ability to sustain fear. And what is the other side? What is at the other side of fear? Well, it's bliss. It's the complete rejection and hatred of your own existence that causes fear. And it's the complete embrace and love of your existence unconditionally that gives you feelings of love or bliss. And on both ends of the spectrum, it is logarithmic. This means that the amount of possible fear a human can experience is exponential, and it goes way, way higher than any human can really fathom. And the same is true for the positive side. The bliss that you can experience is way, way, way higher than you could possibly fathom, and there's way more love and beauty at the other side of fear. And the fear is exponential mainly because of the self-feeding loop. You are scared of being more scared, and you can understand of how much fear is within you, and then you in the fear of the anticipation of more fear, you move up this wave, and then it can loop itself around for not forever literally, but for a long period of time, and you can traumatize yourself. Or you go on the other side, which is the bliss, where you feel joy and you notice the joyness of sensation, and then you fall into that joy, fall into that love, fall into that interconnectivity, and then you notice, wait, literally everything is this interconnected joy. There's nothing within experience that isn't born out of the state of unity and interconnection. And then this gives you a deeper sense of expansion and joy from the simplest sensations. And this is where you have jhana states, which I'm currently working towards. And other very beautiful states of being. And the nice thing about all of this is, outside of the context of meditation, is that as a baseline, you then become equanimous once you move to your underlying fears. This means that your baseline experience is just contentment. So you are not that dependent on what is going to happen to you in the future. You stop worrying so much what is going to happen to you because, hey, who controls that anyway? And you find a baseline of experience that is always there, always present, always somewhat pleasant. And the only way to get to that is to open the door.